All right, I'm going to be going over some of the release questions from old SBAC tests to help us study for our practice, our skills for our tests. So we have, consider expression 7 parentheses 10a plus 3b, and it wants us to write this in two different ways. So I can distribute this 7 and get 7 times 10a, which is 70a, plus 7 times 3b is 21b. Or I can actually write out 7 10a plus 7 3b. Those would both be examples of other ways to write the same problem. The next one deals with volume of an irregular shape. The first thing you're probably going to want to do is break this into pieces that are rectangles or squares that are easy to find the volume. So I'm going to break mine up like this, so that then I'm looking at this tall piece and this short piece. Volume has 3 units: length times width times height. And we always write our units, which are going to be centimeters, cubed. Cubed because there are 3 that we're multiplying. So for the small one, I have this small shape here. My length looks like it's 12, but it's not. The whole thing is 12. The length of this one is actually just 7. Width is 4.5. And height is 5. So you can just use your basic calculator. It probably will give you one of these on the test. If not, you would have to multiply it out. 4.5 times 5 times 7, which gives you 157.5 centimeters cubed. Now that's just the small one. Now we have to come find the large one. So for the large one, my length is here. This whole thing is 12. This portion of it is 7. So that must mean that this portion of it is 5. My length is 5. My width going backwards is the same as this width, which is 4.5. And my height is 9. So again, pull out your basic calculator. 45 times 4.5 gives you 202.5 centimeters cubed. So to find the volume of the whole thing, I need to add these together. 0, 1, 8, 10, 6, 3. Comes out to a nice even 360 centimeters cubed. So that's for this one here. We have a bus travels 36 miles in 45 minutes. Enter the number of miles the bus travels in 60 minutes at this rate. So I'm going to set this up as a proportion with the information I do know as my first fraction. So I have 360 miles over 45 minutes. And it's important to go ahead and put these units here so that when you set up your proportions, you know where to put it over here. What I do know about my new one is that I'm going to have 60 minutes, and I know minutes go on the bottom. So there's a few ways you can solve this. So it just kind of depends on how you like to solve it. You could do 60 divided by 45, 60 divided by 45, and that tells you it's 1 1/3. That they multiplied 45 times 1 1/3 to get to 60. Or you could use your cross multiplication. That would be 60 times 36 has to equal 45 times x. Okay, so I'm going to do my 60 times 36, and I get 2160 equals 45x. Now, my goal is to get this x to be by itself. This is a multiplication problem, so what I need to do is divide to get rid of it. So I'm going to divide both sides by 45. 45 divided by 45 is just 1, so that just leaves you with x. And 2160 divided by 45 equals 48. So you know that they went 48 miles in 60 minutes. Next, we have a coordinate grid here. It says the grid shown represents a map of a park. a portion of the park is going to be upgraded with new playground equipment and flowers. The portion of the park that is to receive upgrades has the following coordinates. Point A is at -4, 4. So we call this spot in the middle our origin. And if we're going to go to -4, 4, first I need to move left and right. So -4, and then up 4, and put a dot, and label it A. Next I have 3, 4, so I start at the origin again. I go to 3, and then up to 4, and put a B. Now I have 3, -2, 3, -2, this is C, and -4, -2, -4, -2. And this is D. And it says to connect the lines to create rectangle ABCD. Here is rectangle ABCD. Part B. Each unit of the grid represents 1 yard. How much area in square yards will receive upgrades? So this is 1 yard by 1 yard, 1 yard by 1 yard, right? So all I would need to do is add up how many squares there are in there, or simply find the area, which is length times width. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this side is 6, which means this side is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So I have 6 rectangles by 7 rectangles, so if I were to count all these up, that means that I would get 42. And since it tells you it's yards, it would be 42 yards squared. Area always has this little 2, an exponent of 2, because there's 2 units you're looking at, length and width, or 2 measurements. So 42 yards squared will get the upgrades. The triangular area between points A, B, and D, A, B, and D, here's the triangle, A, B, D, there it is, will be decorated with red, white, and blue flowers. 1/3 of the triangle ABD will have red flowers. How much area in the square yards will have red flowers? So first, I need to find out what is the area of this triangle. So if the area of the entire thing is 42 yards squared, and this triangle makes up half of that, it would make sense to divide by 2, and it would give you 21 yards squared. So the area of this triangle is 21 yards squared. Then it says 1/3 of the triangle will have red flowers. So 1/3 of this. So what we're going to do is take 21 and divide it by 3. And that gives you 7 yards squared. So how many square yards will have red flowers? 7 yard squares will have red flowers. Okay, so this, actually the answers go in here, 21 and 7. Make sure you get your yards squared. Yards squared. All right, so we will move on to the next page. Select all the expressions that are equivalent to 5x plus 2y. So again, if we rewrite this the 2 different ways we've learned, we could do 5x plus 2y. I also could distribute it. 4 times 5x is 20x plus 8y. So let's see, 9x plus 6y. Nope, that definitely is not it. 5x plus 2y, yes. 20x plus 8y, yes. 20x plus 2y, no. And 7xy, no. So these 2 should have been correct. The table shows the relationship between the amount of ginger ale and fruit juice needed to make punch. Fill in the missing values to complete the table. So we have ginger ale in liters and fruit juice in ounces. So we have to look at the ones we do know. 3 to get to 18, well, they multiplied by 6. 5 to get to 20, they multiplied by 6. So it must be whatever this is, we multiply it by 6 to get here, or whatever this is, we divide by 6 to get here. So if I take 12 and divide by 6, this should be 2. 9 times 6, this should be 54. A recipe requires 1/2 of a cup of flour for every batch of cookies. How many full batches of cookies can be made with 5.5 cups of flour? So that means if we get a mixed number, then we can't use the mixed number. We'd have to use just the whole number. So if we ended up with like 4 1/3, then we would have to say only 4 full batches could be made. But let's solve this and figure it out. So we have 5.5 cups, and we're trying to separate it out into little 1/2 cup sections to try to figure out how many cups we can make, or how many batches we can make. So what that means is we're trying to take that 5.5 and we're trying to divide it into 1/2 pieces, or 1/2 cup sections. All right, so we're trying to take these 5.5 cups that we do have and divide it into 1/2 cup sections. So when we're dividing fractions, the first thing we want to do is change this to an improper fraction. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. The denominator stays the same. Okay, the second thing we need to remember is we never really divide fractions. What we do is flip the second and multiply. And I could simply multiply across to get my answers, or I could say, look, these 2's can cross out and they both become 1's. And so now I end up with 11 times 1 is 11. 1 times 1 is 1, which is just 11. So I can make 11 batches. And since this is a nice even number, I don't have to change anything. Sam and Tyrone each build model cars. Altogether, Sam and Tyrone have built 42 model cars. The ratio of cars Sam has built to the cars Tyrone has built is represented by the tape diagram below. So if I look, there are 7 boxes here, and whatever number I put in them, I have to put the same number in all of them. And when I add it all up, it needs to add up to be 42. So if I'm taking 42 and I'm dividing it into these 7, that means all I'm doing is dividing by 7, which is 6. So that must mean that each of those are 6. Enter the number of cars represented by each square in the tape diagram, which is what I just did. So if the question was, how much did Tyrone make? How many did Sam make? You could simply, this is 18, and this is 24. And you could double check your work by adding that up to make sure that it equaled 42. Select all equations that have n equals 6 as a solution. So all you need to do is put a 6 where the n is and then solve. 2 plus 6 is 6? No. 6 plus 6 is 12? Yes. 4 times 6 is 24? Yes. 6 times 3 is 2? No. All right. If you have any questions on any of these, please see me as soon as possible.